What's up, folks? Welcome to Mindset Tabletop. I'm Matt McCann, and this is part 2 of The Mindset, my collection. So we did the top last time. So now we're going to move on down to this row here, and we're going to start on the right with the welcoming games. So I've got all the bays pretty much set to a category. They're not all totally perfect, but I did try to categorize them. So I'm going to go through and explain which category we're dealing with on each bay. So that's why there's, of course, like a lot of these extra things up top that didn't fit into the shelves because it's hard to get it perfect. Also, as you can tell, that's a lot of games up on the top. I do need more shelf space, so I plan on getting more shelf space soon. And maybe I'll do another little tour once I do that. But we're going to start here with Azul Summer Pavilion. Now, this is a tile laying game where you are about laying tiles. You're actually making a floor. This is the third game, I believe, in the Azul series, and it changes it up with diamond-shaped tiles this time. And there's a little bit of like chain reaction and triggering different abilities and stuff like that on your board. So I thought this one was a little bit more gamed up, so I got it, and I really enjoy it. My brother really loved this one, and yeah, was always asking me to play it. I wish I had played this more with him. But yeah, this is a really good game. It is easy to pick up, it's easy to teach, and it's fairly quick. And you're just basically taking groups of the same color tile, filling them in on different spots that require a certain amount of tiles, and trying to fill in your board the best that you can. So the next up is the Quacks of Quedlinburg, probably my best welcoming game. This game is always a hit. We are all magicians making magical potions that are going to heal people and increase happiness and make life better around Quedlinburg. There's a yearly competition, and that's what we're doing. We're trying to make the best potion. And you have different ingredients that all have different abilities. And you've got a board that is just like your cauldron, and it swirls outward. And you're trying to fill that board in as much as you possibly can using the different abilities of different ingredients. At the end of the round, you're going to get points, and then you're also going to get some buying power to buy more chips to put back into your bag. You put those back in your bag and then go again, and you're working your way farther and farther and farther through your pot as you go through the game. But there are also these white chips called cherry bombs that you want to avoid, because if you get more than 7 points on those white chips, you're going to boil over, and then you have to choose between your points or your coins. So that's how Quacks of Quedlinburg works. It is absolutely fantastic, and it's a bit on the heavy side for something that works so well with new players. So highly, highly recommend this game. And I actually just got the Geek Up bits for this, so I might do a little short on those for you guys. Absolutely recommend getting upgraded chips for this. It really is worth it. The cardboard chips tend to stick together. They're not so easy to pull out of the bag. They're not so easy to separate. Anyway, enough about Quacks, but highly recommend this. My best welcoming game. Photosynthesis might be my favorite welcoming game, but it is so thinky that for some people, it doesn't really work as a super intro game. But this is the easiest game I have to teach. You can teach this in just a few minutes, and everything really, really makes sense. You are growing trees on a board, trying to catch sunlight that's shining in 6 different directions throughout the game, or actually throughout each round. It's going to go around the board either 3 or 4 times, depending on if you play a long or short game. And you are using sunlight to grow your own trees and plant more trees around the board. You're trying to block your opponent's trees from getting sunlight and trying to absorb the sunlight with your trees. The bigger your tree is, the bigger shadow it casts, and the more points it gets from the sun. But you get no points for having trees on the board. The trick of this game is, by the end of the game, you have to harvest as many large trees as you possibly can to get and as close to the center of the board as you can to get these little coins that are end game points. So it's about the trees that you've harvested at the end, not the trees that you have on the board. But throughout the game, you're building this beautiful forest on the board. It's thinky. You have to think one round ahead because you're building the trees to score for the next round. So you have to think of where the sun's going to shine next and play for that. It's really, it's actually, for how serene it looks, it's kind of a nasty game. It's real head-to-head, but it is fantastic, fantastic strategy and tactical game. So Photosynthesis, highly recommend. And Santa Monica. This is just a really pleasant and fun game where you're playing two different types of cards out into a tableau to build up the Santa Monica waterfront. You're building street cards and you're building beach cards. And you're moving different types of meeples around the board. You have like your locals and you have tourists, and I think there's one other kind. And you're trying to populate different little circles on the beach, on the street. You're building businesses, you're building volleyball courts, all kinds of stuff. But I think the first player to 13 cards triggers the end of the game, and then you score. And it's pretty simple. It's easy to learn. It's very thematic, and it's really, really fun. So Santa Monica. So now we're going to move over to, this is kind of sort of Euro action selection section. So up top, we've got Empires of the North. This is the game that I have played the least. I believe I've only soloed this game. And it is really hard, really thinky. This is a tough teach, a tough learn. But there's a lot of really good stuff going on. Basically, it's a Civ builder on cards. So you're selecting from 5 different actions every turn, and you're exploring, you're building things, you're populating, and it's thinky, it's heavy, but it's really fun, and the theme just bleeds off the table in this game. The artwork is fantastic. It just really kind of puts you there. So this is definitely a game I want to learn better and get more into, but it scares me a little bit. This one's pretty tough. This will be on my my heavy games video when I finally do the games that burn my brain out of my head. 5 Tribes, one of my favorite games. This is basically a gamed up, modernized Mancala. So you've got different types of meeples that are different colors, and there's something like 30 of them all around the board. Or there's more. I don't know. There's more than that, maybe. But what you're doing is you're picking up a group of meeples, and then you're going space by space in a line. I mean, you can curve around, but in some type of pattern, you're going from space to space and dropping 1 meeple on each space as you go. When you get to the last one, whatever the last meeple you have is, you pick up all of the meeples of that color on that space. You get a bonus for whatever that color meeple does, and you get an action for the space. So this is really, really cool. It's Mancala with a couple of extra bonuses on top of every turn. This game is not strategic at all. This is total tactical gameplay. You have a constant changing board state. It is crazy. You take your turn, and the more players you have, the more crazy it gets. You take your turn, you get up, you go to the bathroom, you come back, and you've got a new game. So 5 Tribes, fantastic. Really fun game. Highly recommend. Oros. Now, this is interesting. When I first saw a video about this game, I instantly fell in love with the idea. What you're doing is you are smashing land together to make mountains, turn the mountains into volcanoes, erupt those volcanoes into water to make more land, and you are just moving the land around to score different points. You're doing this through a worker placement system, and it is really, really fun, really thinky, and just awesome. As you see, it's kind of like photosynthesis, where it's really cool the way you see the board change and what happens. Now, the solo game works pretty well on this one, and it's tough, But I had a problem with the multiplayer where I played it with my friend, and the game seemed to end way too quick because of the end game triggers in the actions that you take. And we didn't really get a lot done. The board state didn't change very much. Whereas in the solo game, it did. So I'm either playing something wrong. I think there's a problem with the book or something like that, but there was something I clearly didn't get. And so the multiplayer didn't work for this, but the solo still does. Sorry, I'm shaking there a little bit. Anyway, Oros. Good game. Excellent design, fascinating concept. I just got to figure it out. And then down below that is Meadow. This is a tableau building game where, similar to Targi, you are doing a crossover thing where you pick a row and a column, and where those cross over, you grab that card and you put it into your tableau. And those cards will have certain abilities and all kinds of stuff. And you're scoring at the end of the game for having groups of things and triggering, chains of things. So yeah, Meadow is really, really cool. The thing that I liked so much about this game is it literally kind of makes sense as to, if you want this bird in your habitat, you have to have this worm. So it's all literally chaining the food chain. So yeah, check out Meadow. It's an interesting game. Now, on to engine builders. So up top, I owe this game a lot. I love Terraforming Mars. This game showed me what modern board games can do. When I was making my collection, when I started this collection, probably around, like 8 years ago or something like that, this was probably the third game that I got. So I was just discovering modern board gaming. Outside of Magic, I really hadn't played anything heavy before. And so Terraforming Mars was a huge step up for me, but I immediately got into it. And I immediately got my friends into it too. And it's a really, really good engine building game. It's the classic engine building game. You just build up this huge tableau as you go through, and you're chaining things left and right. This has an app. I did not like the app because I didn't think the app felt like the board game. And this board game is absolutely fantastic. Highly recommend Terraforming Mars. This is the quintessential engine building game. If you're an art buff, the art, a lot of it was public domain and stuff like that. But it tells the story, and it's not super themed out. You're pulling you build so much stuff in this game that the theme does get a little bit lost, but it's all about moving those cubes around and getting resources, and everybody collectively terraforming Mars and making it livable. Earth. So this was really hot last year. Still pretty hot, I guess. This is another engine building game. This is kind of a tableau builder. And it's sort of in the same school as like Space Base, Gizmos, where you're laying out different cards and you're triggering them in order. There's 4 different actions that you take, and then you're going to trigger all of the cards in your tableau that are of that color. It's very fun. It's thinky. It's one of those games that you can build your skill in, and it's not a crazy hard teach, but it's definitely on the heavy side. So set aside some time. Your first game is going to take a while, but it's interesting. And if you like games like Terraforming Mars, it's not exactly like Terraforming Mars. It really, like I said, it's more like Gizmos or something like that. But if you like this nature-based engine building, you're going to dig this game. It's a Wonderful World. This is a game where you are making tough choices. This is also an engine builder. It's a Civ builder on cards. And you are choosing which cards to give up for resources and which cards to put into production. You put those into production and then you pay those resources. Once you pay those resources, your card is in your tableau and it gives you a certain bonus. This game just pops off with chain reactions, and you get one thing which allows you to get another thing which fills this in, which allows you to do that. It's freaking great. Yeah, It's a Wonderful World. Awesome, quick, punchy engine builder. Very, very fun. Okay. Now, we'll start here at the bottom. Warfighter. This game is an absolute mystery. I have tried to learn this, but the book is such a mess that I really cannot figure out how to even get started in this. This is kind of a sim of running a military contractor business, and you literally are balancing your budget, everything. This is total realism as far as, being professional killers, basically. So the problem is this whole Warfighter series, there's like crossover in the books. So they're like, hey, you're going to do it like in this game. And if you haven't played every game in the series, it's hard to learn any of these games. The book was an absolute nightmare and like a mistake, in my opinion, because anybody who wants to pick up one of these later games in the series hasn't played the first through the rest. It's very, very difficult to figure it out. You actually have to have someone teach you this. So eventually I'm going to go over to my FLGS and I'm going to have them teach me how to play this game because I couldn't figure it out. But it looks great. It looks very interesting. And I like sim-style games. So big hopes for Warfighter. Trismegistus. This scares me, much like Empires of the North. This is in the T series, I believe. I don't know. Some people say it's not. Some people say it is. But this is a T game to me, and it's probably the hardest game in my collection. This is a game about transmuting metals and making potions. So, quacks on crack. It is really tough. You have to think way ahead. Whereas, like photosynthesis, you're thinking 1 round ahead. In this, you're thinking like 5 rounds ahead. It's really tough. You have to be very careful about the choices that you make. It's very thinky. And this is a game that's probably best to actually dedicate some time to and play over and over again to build some skill, because then it will become more fun, because your first few plays are just plain scary. Trismegistus, this is a beast of a game. Heavy as they come. Tilatum. This is my T game that I have not quite learned yet. It wasn't clicking with me for some reason. And this is supposed to have everything that I love in games. This is supposed to be about chain reactions. And, hey, I love chaining. So you are vying for influence around Europe during Renaissance times, I believe. And you're moving around, you're building buildings, you're doing all kinds of stuff, and you're supposed to be chaining things off. But I just really couldn't figure out how to get that done. So I'm going to study this game. I'm going to play it with my buddy Blake and see if we can figure this one out, because so far it eludes me. Tekenu, Obelisk of the Sun. This is tied with Teotihuacan for my favorite T game. I love this game. My friend Jen hates it. And thank you, Jen, for giving this not 1, not 2, but 3 shots. She tried to play this game and just could not do it. And I understand why. It is super thinky. It's pretty dang hard. But what's so great about this game is the obelisk in the center of the board. I'm actually going to pull this out real quick too so you can see. There is an obelisk in the center of the board, and that obelisk moves around. And as you can see, there's 3 different colors on the obelisk. There's a white area, a dark area, and then 2 grayish areas. That is the sun. That's the time of day. Outside in outside in the circle, you see all the dice. Those dice, based on color, will move between superpowered, available, and not available, dependent on where the sun is. Every couple of rounds, you turn the obelisk and the dice shift. It is absolutely fascinating. Whoa, sorry. 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 I'm making a mess. I'm sorry. Sorry. Oh my God. All right. So, yeah, it is so much fun. So again, you have to think ahead. This is going to be featured in another video I have coming up too. And I don't want to spoil it because I'm really excited about this video. But yeah, you are turning instead of like moving the sun around the board like you do in photosynthesis, you're turning the obelisk to show where the light is shining. And that's constantly shifting the dice. You're then using those dice to take actions on all the different spaces around the board. It is a heavy Euro. It's a T game. It is Daniele Taschini and David Turksey. It's just an incredible Euro game. Definitely try Tekhenu if you get the chance. If you like heavy games, it's absolutely fantastic. Okay, folks, that's the second row. So I will be back with row 3. And thank you so much. Like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for your time, folks. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the comments. I appreciate you guys participating. Let's keep the conversation going about all these games. And keep playing games, folks. Keep having a good time whenever you can. Thank you.